sound the same. Seems like we're waiting on someone to say anything. Silence only brings the pain. Now what I wouldn't give for that to change. Silence only brings the pain. And what I wouldn't give for that to change. Silence only brings the pain. It seems like we're waiting on a change. It seems like we're waiting on a change.
Howdy. No, you're not supposed to. Good thing. Good thing this is like pre-recorded and members only because you guys only get the most quality of content. Sometimes I'll just throw a countdown video on because I don't know what it has on it. And for some reason, instead of just making a bunch of separate files, I'll just dump a bunch of little bumpers into a countdown video because notifications take a bit to get to people. And rather than just doing a 10-second intro, I'll throw 4 or 5 next to each other to puff it out and edit. Cody Leach often mocks me for that. Duly so. And yeah, sometimes it's just I'm as surprised as you are to see what video content drops on a countdown preparation thing. Those of you who are with us every week, which is now a solid thing, thank God it's Tuesday, TGIT, with the last panel group, myself, Gray, Hoope, and Lapsed Comic Fan, do comedy-related content, and some of you are beating around a bush or 2 or 3 or 5 and asking me certain questions, and I don't know how complicit Gray and Lapsed are in this, but I don't know if it's I don't know what it is. I haven't spoken to a therapist in a bit, but it could just be the massive depression talking. It could just be massive in interest or what. But watching a bunch of stand-up recently hasn't like sparked anything. I won't say that I'm completely immune to it. There have been moments where I've watched some like Kill Tony stuff and like felt secondhand embarrassment or anxiety because they do a full minute. It's weird for me to say it like that, but they do like open micers that really aren't open micers. I'm kind of getting frustrated with the terminology, and perhaps I'm just behind on terminology, where someone who's doing it 3 years is still considering themselves an open micer. That horrifies me. In New York, I went through, and this could be the problem. You know, going up through New York, you have a bunch of advantages, a bunch of clubs to work out at. The idea of being an open micer after a few years, I guess your mileage may vary. If you're doing like 1 gig a month, I guess maybe that makes a little bit of sense. Like if you're an open micer with 3 years of experience, but that's actually, 30 performances, that makes a bit of sense. So I hear the term 3 years on shows like Kill Tony, and there's some amount of stage presence, and there's some sort of like hurdle that I have mentally where it's like you should be at least like doing guest spots, emceeing things. You should not be an open micer. granted, for the sake of reality TV, that could be the label some of these people have, just to make them seem like beneath the Kill Tony crew. I'm ill-educated. I've only seen a handful of Kill Tony episodes. Tomorrow night, which technically, if you're watching I don't know what this variation of this test run of the green room will be. I don't know if this will play after or before Tuesday night's episode. The William Montgomery Gray's going to have the night to try to convince both Lapsed and I of William Montgomery's skill. I didn't ask you for anything. All right, so my watch wants me to know that it's 3:09. Where was I? Damn watch. I was heckled by the watch. So I asked Gray to put together 10 separate 1-minute spots. And I don't want the interview portion of Kill Tony to affect the spots. I want the stage spot. Yes, this is live, Sean. I don't want this stage show to be incorporated with the interview portion, which, that's a bit more endearing. It's a bit more sincere. There's a bit more, I don't know, charisma to that. The material should speak on its own. The interview portion should be its own thing. That's where I feel like Kill Tony has this element of like American Idol, America's Got Talent, like this. Let's get to know the person that their talent should be the only thing that matters, but we have this other game show-ish element where people at home get to root for or against the person. So, yeah. So I wanted to separate the performances from the interviews. It's not to say that I'm completely bare on William Montgomery. I've watched a couple of episodes of Kill Tony. He's a regular, so I've seen him once or twice. So one of the WILIscredia channel supporters asked me how I would appreciate or how I would handle being a panelist on Kill Tony, not even performing, which let's call a spade here. At this point, I'm much more likely to be the guy doing a minute for his life than someone on the panel. So we're crystal clear that I don't have any illusions of this. This is more of a what if scenario, and I was advised of this instance where a comedian that is professional who tours the country had a guest spot on Kill Tony and didn't properly know William Montgomery as I would have as well. So this is Charles, put yourself in the shoes of the guy that is not regular on the Kill Tony set. How do you handle this, and who's right and who's wrong? So as something of a refresher or an appetizer of sorts, we're going to go through, I guess there's a lot of like drama a couple of years ago. It's either a year or 2 years ago when William Montgomery had a back and forth with someone. I've been sent a couple of these videos in particular. I've been suggested a couple of these videos in particular, but you sent me this one specifically because it has something of a satirical twist. It's about half an hour long. It is by the channel Glidget Ronin, and the title of the video is "No Longer Invincible: Kill Tony's Darkest Rabbit Hole," and it's one of those. It's playing on the body language stuff, things like that, and I'm going to use satire to educate me on this scenario and try to put myself in the shoes of the person who is not the regular on the panel. And we'll go through this together, and I'll dump my thoughts uh, as it happens, I'll pause here and there. This may be featured in a green room episode. If not, feel special. Sean, you're in for a treat. I have a little bit of familiarity with, well, the comedian who is um, hurt, triggered, offended, on attack. Anywho, we're over here now, and okay, come on, 36 minutes. Sounds like the Joker.
You asked me a question and I answered your question. Tell your
Okay, so the proposal in front of me is, if I were the guy with the microphone in my hand, how would I handle this situation? And I want to remind you that this video is something of a satirical tinge. There are a bunch of comedy drama videos on this exchange in particular. Too Lazy to Try, I saw one specifically that mentioned this. This video has 296,000 views. So you'll realize that I'm very much in the dark in relation to this situation. If you're following like comedy and drama and shit on the internet, because this is, I guess this was a big deal when it happened, but I'm behind in things. And the request was, Charles, put yourself in this man's shoes. Does it go differently for you? And let's explore.
story, dude.
What's your? Yeah, do you see it? You just.
See, so the editing is very very masterfully done to induce a bit more angst in the situation. This editing is done for effect very clearly. At least I hope very clearly.
I didn't even do an impression of you, dumbass! William! Nothing in it!
When you rely too much on the group for your source of strength, you better be judicious, because if you use the group's strength for bad purposes, your opposition, out of spite, will find a way to alienate you, and then they will rip you apart. Once they do that, the group's approval vanishes, leaving you open to being publicly dismantled and stripped of your status, and there you will stand, alone, facing the consequences of the actions you took when you thought you were invincible. Chad Daniels, the comedian's first big break on industry-leading comedy podcast Kill Tony, cannot afford to be embarrassed publicly and never invited back. William Montgomery, a regular on Kill Tony, cannot afford to be humiliated by someone who is not well known or deserving of such power.
All right, so I sincerely hope this is satirical or done for comedic effect, because this is a comedy show. I want to be clear that this stage that we're talking about, this show that all of this is happening on, is a comedy show. These are comedians, and the question that was presented to me was in the form that, if I were a working comedian, if this were during my heyday where I was, a road comedian, and I had some sort of spot like this, and an open micer, again, that's where this terminology kind of trips me up a bit, because I don't know if William Montgomery would be considered an open micer at this point. If he's a regular on the show, it's this weird middle spot where he's not quite like the elite on the panel, but also he's constantly doing 1-minute sets. Again, I don't have very much experience with his stage show. I've only watched maybe a total of 5 episodes of Kill Tony, and half of which were on on Netflix. So my first experience with Tony was the first Netflix special. Um, so I don't have the dynamics, the power dynamics, perhaps, and I guess it's another good reason to put myself in Chad's shoes because if I'm going there thinking I'm a panelist on stand-up comedy's answer to America's Got Talent, and it's a comedy show first. I don't know if I would assume a regular wouldn't be able to play back and forth. So some of this could be like really exaggerated, but I think some of it is kind of like the fact that there's this much drama about this one situation is interesting. I'll have to remind myself to ask Gray about this situation after his display, but because I'm curious what the public perceives of this situation, but I still don't have my perception yet. So let us continue.
One of these two famous people are going to have.
And to be fair to both and neither at the same time, are either of them famous people is a better question, which is a fair question that someone would ask if I were in Chad's shoes at this moment. Who the hell's the guy with the weird hat? It would be the question you'd ask. And fairly so.
Have their social acceptance and their career progression negatively affected as a result of this conflict. Podcast host Tony Hinchcliffe, co-host Redban, and guest Sam Morrill are not aware of the war that they are about to bear witness to. The terror, which would not end for another 3 hours of this podcast, if it ever did end, began, so far as I can tell, with comedian William Montgomery stepping foot onto the stage and meeting eyes for the first time with comedian Chad Daniels.
Let me say that the editing style of this, however it's presented, if it's just being presented straight, it's it's still masterfully edited. It reminds me of stuff. I watch a lot of sports content, The Secret Base, things like that, where they'll show you everything in this championship game changed at this moment. And it has all this dramatic music and plays things up like this. This feels like one of those videos where, everything was going fine until this one moment. And then we're going to break everything down as to what the hell went wrong. It's done very well. I'm intrigued based on the edit style alone.
William Montgomery.
I don't know if this is his thing yet, but the dude's dressed like he's at a barbecue. Again, that could be part of his shtick. That could be part of his material. But when I think of a stand-up comedian, I don't think of someone dressing like they're going to a barbecue. But if you saw some of the things I wore on stage, yikes. Again, no room to talk from CeePo. Hey, Hayden, thanks for joining.
That is very correct. I am the popsicle.
Can we just let the curses go? You're doing such a good job with the editing. Let the curses go. So you can't have this video play to a 13-year-old. What 13-year-old should be watching this? Genuinely. It's a grown-up show. Don't. So I'm assuming all of the curses are going to be, I was going to say bleep, but they're not. They're just cut out. That's not freedom of speech.
Prince, and I do control the weather. To me, the biggest mystery about the Trump assassination attempt is how in the hell did Hillary Clinton's fat ass climb up on the roof of that building? Guess y'all heard the news. Dr. Ruth died. Rest in peace to the woman who taught me how to orgasm.
Oh, this is so hard to watch. That look into the audience Oh, I've done that thousands of times. I don't know if like this is his first time, period, doing some of this material. Gray says, "What? How dare you, sir? You'll spoil your appetite for the big red machine." I guess you know what? You're right, Gray. This technically does count as his stage set, but this is me. I got to perform for the like. I'm a dancing monkey for the supporters, and there was a proposition proposed to me based on this drama, and I am reacting accordingly. This is more about. This is 30 minutes based on this 1 minute set, Doc. So enjoy the ride. His humor isn't quite mine, but I do like his banter after his set. He seems panicky too panicky as well. Yes, and I think that's part of a lot of people on this. I think I might be the opposite, where my material would probably go over well, but my interview would be like, I don't like being social with people, so I might have it completely backwards. Making fun of the Trump assassination attempt, that would not trigger backlash. Then again, comedy's supposed to push boundaries, and especially the Austin scene, definitely. And I'm assuming this happened right around then, because from what I understand of regulars on the show, is they were doing like new material, doing new minutes. But it's a lot of pressure. I wouldn't want to do new material every time in front of cameras. There's a reason you don't see, if you add up all of my appearances on the internet, it's combined, it's maybe less than 2 hours, maybe even less than an hour. There's a reason for that. If I'm working stuff out, it's a shame. I've moved a couple of 100 times across multiple countries and continents. I've lost some of my notes and recordings, which I guess for posterity that would have been interesting. But if I'm working something out, I don't like the idea of a recording being out there that does not represent what the finished product is. And there's a lot of stuff out there that if you watch whatever video of me you're thinking of, if you watch it, I promise you there's something about the material that's in there that isn't finished or isn't the best variation of that. I did not put together a tight 10, for booking purposes. So this stuff, I give these guys a hell of a lot more respect than anything for doing like green material for cameras and the internet, and for a web show that's airing to a couple of 100 million people a week. You might want to reword that, Sean. Sean says Britain needs CP comedy, although British and American humor can be chalk and cheese. Chalk and cheese, I believe, is an ism to show the differentiation. Like oil and water, I think would be the American version of saying chalk and cheese. Funny, I've heard that said. Otherwise, I would be like chalk and cheese. Yeah, you mean Charles Patterson comedy, and I appreciate it. I don't know if either are ready for each other.
I'm developing a new subdivision aimed at attracting middle-class working Italian families. I'm going to call it.
Hey, ads.
This train has
Get
been
that money.
hijacked.
I apologize that you have to sit through these ads. And especially if you're a paid member. I don't have it like that. Sorry. Oh no.
Hey, that's my time. Ruth died. Rest in peace to the woman who taught me how to orgasm. I'm developing a new subdivision aimed at attracting middle-class working Italian families. I'm going to call it Pizzagate. Okay, that's my time.
Well, that's so, like, I'm sweating. I'm just sweating experiencing that. Closing like that. Like usually Usually, if you've done it more than once, you want to close big. Sometimes people say open big, close big. At the very least, close big. To close on just a whiff, like that sucks because that's the last taste the audience has of you, and you do not want that as a comedian to leave the venue and whatever crowd member saw you and has some sort of memory of you. The last thought they have is, "Ooh, really whiffed hard there at the end." Again, I have more respect than anything. However I feel about the material, uh, nothing but respect. I'm like a fucking Vietnam vet who's just trying to talk about uh, the angle of the shot, so to speak.
At William's first scream, we notice Chad get startled, stop scratching his nose, come to attention, and give William a slight smile. There's two things we need to discuss here: Chad's smile and the corresponding effects that being startled in this way on a public stage have.
Okay, so again, I don't know how much of this is serious. Uh, Gray says, "You're forgetting though that the set isn't the end." Yeah, that's fair, and I think that's the loophole of Kill Tony that I don't think is fair. Like if you're sending this out to a booking agent, how do you book yourself for a club saying, "Yeah, I might whiff hard on brand new jokes, but just as long as you have 3 comedians on stage asking me questions, things will go well. The performance starts when the minute is done." Yeah, that's fair. We should have a very interesting discussion. I can see multiple perspectives, but I guess the comedian me, does not know how to use this um, in a stand-up setting. This show is very unique, very different. There are things like oh, what the hell's the name of that show? Uh, the schmucks. What the hell is it called? Gray, what's that show with the some of your favorite people on it? I've drawn a blank to what the hell the name of that show is. With I think. Well, anyway, it's another situation where comedians are around a table in a club, and it's more like a podcast thing than it is a stand-up performance. And I think Legion of Skanks. Yes, thank you. I don't know what the hell I said, but yes, Legion of Skanks. That's another situation where this type of environment would work. Um, but for stage, like if you're trying to work, the Columbus Improv, they're going to judge you based on the minute and not the interview, because they're not going to be able to replicate that interview. The stage is yours to replicate that minute. But then again, thinking about the audience here, if you're the Columbus Improv and you're booking William Montgomery, you're booking him based on the audience that will show up, regardless of whether or not they have a good time. So to be fair to Chad here, if he's unaware of William Montgomery, which I would have qualified in this instance, it's jarring. It's jarring to have someone scream like that. Like, you have a minute and you're resorting to screaming and being very loud and energetic. It's jarring. The tone shifts. So yeah, the nervous laughter could be okay, friend, just trying to do the job here. A standing ovation looks great to the booker, though, even if it's from the interview. I would argue the follower size looks great to the booker as well. But yeah, fair enough.
You see, over the course of William's set, Chad smiles only when William looks at him. Smiling only when physically prompted by our counterparty can serve as an appeasement gesture and an attempt to diffuse social conflict in the face of a perceived threat.
See, again, this is a comedy set. Like, it's not a tiger and a gazelle here. It's a stand-up set. I hope they're having fun with this.
By having it be an outward expression instead of just an inward realization, these artificial smiles show us the true extent to which he was startled.
It could also just mean empathy. So, as someone who's been on the stage, somebody who's tried things new, who's eaten it at times, that smiling could be, I feel your pain. I'm with you. Keep going. It's not exactly. I'm looking too deeply in what appears to be a comedic bit here, but I think it's a bit deeper than that, or more shallow than that, actually.
To have your social expectations violated to the point of being visibly startled during your introduction sets the stage for the building of bad will between both parties, the seedling from which all our conflict will stem from.
If you're expecting Lisa Loeb, and you get a tyrant, you're gonna have to reassess things.
As we will see, this impropriety causes one party to become less concerned about making a connection and more concerned about their own self-preservation.
And we took her to the vet, and the doctor says it's not a parasite, so now we're taking her to some real expensive place in Sedona, Arizona. This found a worm in Gator's vet. And now this doctor here in Austin's telling us that's not the case.
We see that Chad has now used his arm to put up a physical barrier towards William. The use of these gestures can not only act as a protective mechanism that provides psychological distance to facilitate clearer thinking, but the subconscious need for such an outward mechanism implies the strength of the discomfort and the problem at hand.
But to that note, William Montgomery also, he's standing on stage, but his left arm is out against his hip. So you could kind of say the same thing. And William Montgomery has the power in this situation.
This is further confirmation to us that Chad is now more.
Why is Montgomery grabbing at his it looks like he's grabbing his belt strap underneath his shirt. Like he's reaching over his shirt to grab his belt there. If you're gonna do the body language thing, go unless maybe they do it later.
More concerned with self-preservation than being in the moment, as a result of feeling like he was perhaps intentionally startled, and it is here that we begin to see William looking over and slightly noticing Chad's adverse reaction. At this point, Chad is trying to cautiously figure William out, and we are let in on the true depth of his confusion and intimidation in this next clip.
And now this doctor here in Austin's telling us that's not the case. And I found online there's a great guy in Sedona, Arizona.
What's the guy in Sedona gonna do?
He specializes, Tony, and if you're...
There's a character that we haven't introduced yet. An invisible character that goes by the name of the Group. The Group is...
They're visible.
An abstraction. It cannot be touched, but it can be visualized. And as we will see, it can exist in a room acknowledged by all the other people as if it is really right there. Responsibility for the statements that are coming from individuals on behalf of a group, in this case the panel, is often ascribed to the entire group. People within that group are often seen as tacit acceptors unless they provide some type of signal to show that they don't agree or support it, whether it be verbal or nonverbal. So in an attempt to subconsciously disassociate himself from being responsible for whatever Tony says, Chad looks down and away from William the second that Tony starts speaking. Chad is concerned about the nonverbal commitments that he is making in this moment. He wants to prolong his judgment and avoid putting himself in a position that might experience the hot end of William's irrational wrath. Now, his avoidance of this implies that he is at least subconsciously aware of the existence of this dynamic, and it is precisely the future abuse of this dynamic that will be the catastrophic source of the approaching downward spiral.
Couldn't it also be that it's Tony's the host of the show, and the person you don't speak while the person is speaking, and it's funny that the dynamic is set a certain way. The panel are all seated. They all have different colored microphones, like red, and I think Tony's is gold, right? And the comedian that is, I don't know, on the stage, having all the focus on him is the one standing. There's very, very clearly a different dynamic between the guy who's doing a minute and then talking afterwards and the people who are there to I don't know, interact with, give notes. I guess I'm glad that whatever I had heard about this show prior to this is not true. I thought that all of these shows were just the professionals roast the open micer, and that's not the case. So I'm glad to experience the show that it's not like that. If anything, they're kind of supportive, and if anything, they're tough love to people who are trying and aren't there yet. So I think there's quite a bunch of different things that could be benefited from the professional panel, for lack of a better definition.
But for right now, as more time passes,
so the stage comic has a red mic as well. Okay, so doesn't have a table with a big Kill Tony sign on it, though.
Chad gets more and more comfortable looking William head on when the group speaks, and William notices.
Searching. I was so scared. Tony is the scaredest I've been in forever.
The vet said it doesn't have a parasite. Everything is okay. The dog will be fine. And you went online, found a guy in Sedona that searches through dog.
I found a worm and gator. Tony.
I had 7 pension funds from.
The other thing that could be happening here is, comedians. This is why I had a hard time hanging out with and just chilling with comedians. If you get more than one comic together at the same time, it seems to me. There are times like I've had dinner at times, or lunch, or brunch, whatever, with other comedians, and there have been times where it felt like comedians try to get their spot in, and I couldn't imagine doing this where it's 4 comics, and if Tony's talking and there's an interview happening, it's a comedy show. So I guess internally, what I would be thinking of, all right, they're working this out, trying to find something funny, and if something came up that I thought was funny, I would chime in with that note. But if you're trusting Tony to traverse this situation to try to find humor in the story, you sit back and relax, and you wait until the fact that he turns his head to him could also be to just acknowledge that he sees that he's talking, and he would have a visual confirmation if and or when he stops. And if something comes up when he stops, again, the host of the show, you could jump in with something. Comedies is weird, especially the more guys that are funny all have microphones. It gets a little slippery because someone wants to get their shit in. It's timing too. One of the major things about comedy is timing. So while a sentence is being talked about, you want to get the funny thing at the right moment, because if you wait too long, and 4 sentences come out, but your joke, your reference was for the first sentence. It doesn't flow the same way. And having to compete with technically 4 other guys, the people that are on the panel and the comedian that's standing, it's it's it, I don't excuse my use of the word tense, but like you get stuffy in there where you're trying to get your work in there, and sometimes you're competing for that stage time. So again, considering the host is speaking, you want to sit back and relax and kind of take things in, and it could just be an acknowledgement, or if he has something to say, he might like show a finger or something, because from what I understand, this Chad guy doesn't really know Tony very well. From what I understand, the guests may be aware of one another, but Red Band and Tony are like the true regulars. So there's this feeling each other out thing that could be happening. Yeah.
That's Red Band keeps repeating that's very normal.
It's very normal.
As the interaction continues,
I wish he didn't fast forward over the story, because I think it's about dog fecal matter from the dog.
Chad slowly comes to increase the level of eye contact he offers William as Tony is speaking.
Yeah, if you also look, everyone's looking away. No one's looking at the person who's looking at William is Tony, and technically Red Band, but half the table is looking in the opposite direction.
Perhaps just to get a better look at William and gain more information in his prolonged judgment of him. But the more Chad looks at William while Tony is speaking, the more he non-verbally cosigns whatever is coming out of the group. However, William can begin to feel the heat of Chad's gaze on him, and he doesn't like it at all.
He eats he eats food off the street. I don't know if people know that. That's probably
That's my thing.
Oh, he fucked that joke up.
When William and Chad meet eyes, William makes an auditory sound of disgust that throws him completely off track and puts up a physical boundary of crossed arms as he likely realizes, great, this guy doesn't get it. I'm going to have to deal with him.
No, he chewed up his joke. He didn't deliver the joke well. I do that. I do that when I don't deliver jokes, but you want to, especially if you're being sassy with someone, if you're trying to dunk on someone, you want the sentence to come out clean. And if you screw that line up, if you screw a punchline up, it quickly, you look foolish. It happens to everyone. It's happened at least once to anyone who does this. And he knows that, like, he tripped up on the delivery. Like, that's what I received from it. Again, as someone who's done it, as someone who probably did it, this little recording here, it's I have something to say. My tongue got in the way, and timing. The timing is I need to say this sentence and have it work out this way, because at the end there's something funny that needs to be said or heard to trigger an emotion. And if you trip over yourself delivering that, you fucked up the moment. That's what the is. Again, another reason I have so much respect for these people, because you're trying shit. Like, this is first time trying shit, and millions of people are watching it. That wild thought to me.
You see, up until this point, William could notice out of his peripherals the tentative responses that Chad was giving him. William's last joke before his sound of disgust caused Chad, now with his arms crossed, to furrow his eyebrows. This was the tipping point for William. No matter what Chad was thinking internally, the signals were too strong and went on for too long for them not to be perceived as a negative judgment by.
So, again, I'm of the faith that this entire video is done for comedic purposes, but as an entertainer, as a professional comedian who's signed on to be a part of a comedy show, the second that you realize that William is of the character that, I'm going to say something, I'm going to be a little edgy, I'm going to, have a joke about whatever person I'm talking to. And he's just witnessed him trip on one of his roast jokes, or he's just witnessed him try to deliver something and audibly realize he fucked it up. And that is kind of your unwritten cue to pick up the laughter. Okay, we're doing roast stuff, and he just tripped up on this moment. How can I save this exchange? And perhaps he doesn't think to do that until called on, and it leaves it open. These are professionals, after all. If he's familiar with having to capitalize on moments that can or cannot be funny, you would have trust in the fact that if someone else, misses the ball, there's 4 other comedians there that can still entertain the audience, and like that's the most important thing to me. Like if I owned the club, if this were my podcast or whatever, I just want people to have a good time. Don't worry about I don't know the dynamics of what goes on behind the scenes. If you eat it, it doesn't matter. If you suck, it doesn't matter. Just make sure people are having a good time. It's the same principle as when Brian and I argue for movies. It's not that we believe it so much, but like you could tell by the chat that people are having a good time. It's entertaining, and you kind of lean into it. If people are having a good time, the mistakes don't matter. At least that's what my experience has taught me as far as comedy is concerned.
William. Within an interaction, the longer that a physical barrier, such as crossed arms, is present, and ambiguous expressions are used, such as furrowed eyebrows, the more likely the other party will be in beginning to assume that it is the result of a negative judgment towards them.
It could,
rather than a personal issue.
It could also be the fact that he wanted to know where the joke was going, like that he stepped on his line delivery and just kind of went bah. He could be like, no, go ahead, say it again. Say what you were going to say. He could be confused that William just bails on the material that he was doing. Like I understand it. But it could have been a thing where he's like, I don't even understand what the joke was before you stepped on it. It could be a couple of things, but I'm not a professional body language reader, so take that into effect.
On top of this, it is important to note that this expression came as an outward noise instead of just an inward realization. The outward expression of disgust came belting out of him almost as if he didn't have a choice. And it is this that cues us in to the seriousness of the conflict. The loudness of a response is directly correlated with the amount of pain, discomfort, and emotion that is causing the response. And we know that this disgust from William is targeted right at Chad, as William replicates his physical posture immediately after.
Again, I'm assuming that this is for comedic effect, but a comedian, when you're setting something up, and perhaps for the first time, most especially in front of a camera, like the best way to document something, how something goes, you want to get your first time. You want to get it right. You want to deliver it to see how it goes. And if you trip it up at the point where you're delivering the funny thing, you've wasted everything. Like you don't have. I mean, people could just say it all over again, have a second go at that sentence, at that line delivery, but the pressure's there. You don't want to look like someone who can't deliver lines, but it's ego plays into this, and it's frustration with himself more than anything, I would say, or frustration with the lack of laughter. It could be a couple of things. As much as I think this video is doing something, I don't think it was him having an issue with Chad at all.
A passive acceptance of the fight that is so quickly approaching.
Yeah, his again, I'm not a professional. His body language doesn't look comfortable right now. and by he I mean William Montgomery, arms crossed, and he's banged the microphone against his head. That 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 stuff where, you know, he could be like, "Fuck, why did I chew that line?"
The auditory sound of disgust triggers Tony into a belly laughter, likely because he knows Chad is looking at William with a sense of confusion and judgment. It is what Tony says after that makes us realize that, on behalf of the group, Tony takes the lead for Chad for the first time in this Chad vs. William conflict.
He eats he eats food off the street. I don't know if people know that. That's probably
It's my thing.
stressed.
Chad, have you seen William before?
I haven't.
Yeah, again, laughter first. The fact that William, you know, he eats the street. He eats the food off. Once he tripped up, he knew he was like on a slippery slope, and he couldn't get back from that. And he figured by that sentence he was done, and just decided to bail. He cut the line and bailed on whatever it was he was going to say, and he got frustrated with himself. And Tony, the professional of what, 2 decades, at least a decade, more than that, is there to save the moment, and even if at least to segue into something else. It could also just be the moment where he's like, okay, you're tripping on your words. Let's move our attention here to someone else who can maybe give you a second to breathe. Maybe they have something funny to say. It's all part of being an entertainer, part of being a professional, and thinking about laughter first in a show like this.
How are you, Chad?
I'm great.
It is here that we find confirmation of the acceptance of the battle within William's tone. To have your first statement towards someone be condescending shows that you've already made your mind up about them perceiving you negatively. A condescending tone, especially during the introduction, can signal a predetermined negative disposition towards the listener, inspired by a perceived negative evaluation from the listener.
And again, his arms are crossed. He could. I don't know what egos are like on this show with the regulars, but he might have taken something of a hit to his armor. The fact that Chad said he's not familiar with him, he might have been like, oh, "What? You're on this show and you're not familiar with me?" Like it. I'm not saying that's what the case is, but it could be a thing like that. And again, first impressions. So he could be thinking multiple things. I just chewed up a delivery of a joke there, and this guy has never seen me before. I don't know how he feels about things, but if I were in this situation, in William's shoes, and I'm trying to, again, ego plays in when you're on stage. It's you. Everyone's looking at you. There's a lot of ego, a lot of self-esteem that goes in there. I would feel kind of shitty where it's like, oh, this guy doesn't know me, and I'm just eating shit royally here. Oh no. And you could just project in the opposite direction to say, all right, well, I'm going to act like I'm in control here, that everything's supposed to be the way it is. And yeah, it's the tone is a little cute, but again, it could be just trying to find your footing.
William's tone in his introduction, as if he's talking to a child, implicitly communicates the
Wow.
The pennies dropped.
It could also be like, oh, you're unfamiliar with me, so strap in. Do this many commercials play on my shit?
that if you look down on me, I'll look down. His introduction, as if he's talking to a child, implicitly communicates the message that if you look down on me, I'll look down on you. It is in this way that
Literally.
William makes his first implicit attack, and Chad responds in a similar, uniquely way.
Yes, what? Wait, what is yes to? Gray, you're doing the thing that everyone else does. What is yes to?
Have you seen William before?
I haven't.
How are you, Chad?
I'm great.
Cool.
Yeah, so that exchange right there is an opportunity. Like again, you have a dance partner, and this is something that I just don't like. I don't like the idea of depending on someone else. I'm not a big fan of improv, the yes and stuff. This I don't know, this setup conversation. The how are you? I'm good, great. There's nowhere to go from that. It's not working out. And again, I don't know what his mind frame is, but you've stepped on a line. This is your first experience with the person, and you're trying to do something, being a bit condescending with your tone. You're like, hey, wait till you get a load of me, and there's just nothing happening. There's like this friction, this lack of energy between people. It happens. It just sucks for it to happen on a stage in front of an audience, and the audience also is the internet. Thanks, Ad Gray.
An unwillingness to engage in the intentional stupidity of our counterparty implies, from our counterparty's perspective, that we either look down on such things or we are too nervous to readily engage in it.
But again, how are you, Chad? I'm good. Cool. I don't know very many 5-star professionals that can maneuver from that. I mean, you'd have to start something brand new. Again, I'm trying to be as open-minded as possible to the idea of this video, but you put me in that situation. Again, I prefer not to have like a back and forth thing. I like to be especially if I'm not the person on stage, in control of the mic. I will drop my shit in when I feel like there's something funny to say. Don't bring attention to me, because if I don't have it, especially if there's multiple people at the same time, if I don't have it, I won't talk. And if you're just saying hello, how are you? And there's nothing there. I'm not going to give you anything because, as if it were me in that situation, which again is the proposal for this video, I would be the same way. I wouldn't be able to interact any further. How are you? I'm fine. Cool. And again, as a guest on the panel, he could be still getting his footing. There could be a thing where he doesn't want to shit on someone who's a regular, who's, it could be his impression that Williams had a really rough set because you just witnessed him, a minute earlier, try to shit on Red Band and chew his sentence and then audibly get frustrated. So, as a comedian, he's probably been there and can relate to it. So it could be I'm not going to dogpile. This guy already feels bad for himself. We'll see.
Taking all of the previously sustained negative signals towards him, William assumes that Chad's ultra-normal responses as coming from a place of hubris, and that it is also coming from a place of negative judgment and a desire not to engage.
Come on, sir. It's not hard to yes and. Oh, it's hard. Especially when the lights are on and the camera's rolling. If you don't have it, you don't have it.
Engage on the same freakish level. William is determined to confront Chad's negative perception of him, and it is here where we also get an insight into Chad's adrenaline response.
What do you do? Are you a comedian or what do you do?
Oh my God.
Okay, so this is like schoolyard shit. I don't see. So bringing more attention to it is that doesn't help. That's like piling on stuff that you experience in school and high school. Oh my God, William, he could try to. This could be his attempt to calm things down, but speaking loudly and bringing more attention to the absurdity of the thing isn't perhaps the best thing, but it is his show. Um, but again, um, if if I am Chad in that situation and I've witnessed someone chew a delivery just before this, and our exchange was, "How are you? Good, cool." And he asks me, "Are you a comedian or something?" I'm a bit offended at that point because I haven't I haven't tried to step on any of your fumbling, any of your failure. I'm trying to just leave the road open for you to figure out how to get back on your path, and you're using me as the low man on the pole. But I haven't tried and missed a couple of times already. It's again for the sake of comedy. You see where it goes, but I'd be a bit offended if I haven't been combative at all.
William, why do you do that to the guest?
Why do you say no?
I've never
That's
met
what I
you.
forgot
We've
to tell
never
you guys
fucking
earlier.
met.
It's okay.
I mean, remember when I said
okay.
I
We've
feel like I'm
never
forgetting
met.
something? What I forgot to tell you guys was sometimes William takes shot at the guests to not worry about it.
The group comes to Chad's aid, and immediately Chad calls off the cavalry. He knows, at least subconsciously, that he doesn't want to be a part of the group, and that it is much more honorable to take the battle one-on-one.
It could also be a thing where, again, he could have been giving William the road. All right, like I don't really have much for you on this. How are you? Good, cool thing. Like I'm trying to help you get to the laughs, get your laughs and get off. But when you condescend to someone, are you some sort of comedian or something? Again, as someone who's there to make people laugh, that's the invitation. Okay, if I can't do it, go ahead, do it. Make people laugh. And again, he's opened the door by saying, "What are you, some sort of comedian or something?" That in this environment, especially with Tony going, "Oh," that is something of an open lane to, all right, if you've got something, take it. William is an improv machine. He's been called a compulsive liar, but his thing is lying. It's hilarious. Well, we'll be the judge of that tomorrow. We're on the interview portion now, Gray, so this isn't technically material. But again, as a professional comedian, having this setup happen where, you're trying to give the person on stage the free space to get somewhere where he could get material out there, just leaving things open, and for him to come back and be like, "Are you some sort of comedian or something?" He might have something in the chamber for that, and that might be why he's like, "No, don't worry about it. Like, my turn. If you're not going to make him laugh, I will."
However, we don't see him say or do anything after he calls off the cavalry other than uphold his nervous physical barriers, which brings us to a moment of silence. Chad had a chance to take the offensive here on his own, but he didn't.
It's because Tony's talking right now.
It's likely because in that moment, he is realizing that he's being attacked, and in this realization, his fight, flight, freeze response is shutting down his systems and causing him to freeze. This is not good for Chad at all, because it is in the realization that one is freezing that brings about the heightened awareness and realization of one's actual weakness and true lack of strength.
No, you could see him waving his hand and saying no. He's getting ready to say something, but the problem is Tony says, "This is the thing I forgot to tell you." So he's just letting the host of the show speak. I get it for the sake of the narrative of this video that's what this is, but I think he's got one in the chamber and he's ready to go off.
Becoming increasingly more aware of his weakness, as William gains more and more courage to strike, Chad needs to figure something out fast.
To tell you guys was sometimes William takes shot at the guests to not worry about it.
That really, I swear it
He has
wasn't.
a bad reputation
It's okay.
for it. He's like, what? William, what
The editing is just priceless.
are you doing?
Chad is still stuck. stuck in this adrenaline response as he slowly puts his hand on his chest to give a somewhat theatrical yet sentimental "it's okay." And this stops William instantly in his tracks, like a shark who immediately locks on and changes course the second he smells blood, like a lion staring down his own destruction. Chad's internal realization of weakness has now externalized, and William notices it as he locks on his gaze. Chad has let out blood, and William hasn't eaten in weeks.
That really, I swear it
He has a bad reputation
It's okay.
for it. He's like the... What? William, what are you doing? Are you starting it over there?
No, I'm not.
Oh, what?
Like a wounded seal, Chad is praying that the subject changes before he gets pounced on.
I don't know if that's the case. Tony started speaking, and then William said something, and then kind of stopped and did that weird stare. I don't know how I would take any of this, because if he says, William says, "Are you a comedian or something?" and then Tony jumps in and says, "Oh wait, I forgot to tell you that he does this sometimes." So, there could be this trying to figure out how much of this is for show, how much of this, is this kayfabe? What am I processing here? What am I supposed to do? Because he looked pretty ready to come back with something, because he had the mic in his, he had the mic to his mouth, and he was getting ready to say something, and he put his hand up like, no, I got this. But then that weird exchange happened. I'm curious to see what would have happened if Tony didn't say, "I forgot to tell you something."
His strength to fight this battle one-on-one is non-existent as he clutches the mic in fear. Before choosing to engage in battle, William offered Chad multiple attempts and plenty of dead silent space to give his input and partake in his silliness, but all William feels he received is negative judgment.
I don't know how are you okay, cool. Listen, some comedians can make work of that, sure. I don't know. Some tennis partners just don't work well together. And if Chad is not the type to, do like insult type stuff, he's not prepared for the discussion. But he might still be feeling things out. I don't know. If you gave me a minute and I never experienced someone, as Chad said he hasn't, and I'll take him at that. I won't assume that is, him doing a persona for the sake of the show. He's probably still processing, like, what is this? This guy is a bit combative and has a hard time with himself if he can't get the lines out. So I don't know. Like, I don't know. He could be thinking, do I want to dunk on someone who's still working shit out? Like, there's many ways to receive this.
Tying things together, for William to previously ask, "Are you a comedian?" allows him to defend himself from the negative view that the audience will come to have as a result of this awkward moment. And it simultaneously sends the implicit message of, if you were funny, you would have engaged in my stupidity with me. I will not let your negative judgment of me slide.
Sure, but to add on to part two, if you were a comedian, you now, we're supposed to be making people laugh here, and in insult comedy, this could be the opening for Chad to be, all right, I was trying to play it easy with you. I think there's more to this than that situation. There's more than two choices there, but I digest.
William, feeling justified in his rage, is about to smite down
Rage?
Chad. But Chad, in his weakness, acting quickly, does this.
What?
Oh, what? Why are you looking Chad up and down?
Yeah,
like
he's
that?
sizing me up all
He
of a
is.
sudden.
He's
I
sizing
think I
you
could
up.
kick the out.
Whoa, William.
Beat your
Do not try.
Yeah, no, when I ask again, so what are you, a comic or something?
Yeah, so he's psyching himself up.
Hey,
Whoa,
I can
William.
take your ass.
Chad
Yeah. Getting a little loud. I think he's trying, like, so to the video creator's point, he could be doing a thing like perhaps William is of the mind, all right, if we can't play together, I'll take over because I've had these chances to make people laugh. I've stepped on a line already, doing the "How are you? Fine, cool" thing. Like, okay, you're not jumping in on anything. I'll go into overdrive, and having that "How are you? Fine, cool." That could be just what he's doing externally to kind of like reload internally. Like, all right, what do I want to do after this? It could just be buying time because silence sucks on stage, and you're having what appears to be a conversation, but internally you're thinking, all right, what do I want to do moving forward? How do I step back into the path where I'm getting laughs? And he appears to be back to screaming and apparently combative.
realizes that he can't do this alone. He needs
It feels this good to be with.
God damn.
from the cavalry, making it
Ask again. So what are you, a comic or something?
Whoa,
I can
William.
take your ass.
Chad realizes that he can't do this alone. He needs help from the cavalry, making an implicit appeal to Tony as to why William is pressing him instead of just handling it himself. In this way, Chad shrinks back into the group, and from here begins to sacrifice the potential strength of his individuality for the more secure, less honorable strength of the group.
Again, also because Tony said, "Why are you looking at him like that?" Which Chad says, "Yeah, he's sizing me up." He's reacting to something that Tony said.
Through this assimilation, William now becomes the underdog. William is no longer looking at his prey of Chad. No, now he's fighting against the group, where Chad will soon be hiding with him. The realization that he is the underdog now makes William feel justified in elevating the confrontation to the next level. With this realization, will William go all out against a bigger opponent, or will he regroup and look for an opportunity to alienate Chad?
Whoa,
I can
William.
take your ass.
Whoa, William, don't do that. William, don't do that.
Dog has worms, Tony.
After making an attack as the newfound underdog, there's a long, intentional silence. During this silence, both of them are leaning away from each other, as if there is a revulsion to the literal tension that is growing between them. Physically leaning away from an interaction can also help with judgment. It's a small way to remove yourself from the situation and think more clearly. The greater the lean, the greater the tension. However, this also implies that both of their emotional states are spiked, and high enough to the extent that they are both clouded enough to the point where they need to take an action like this in order to see the situation better. Psychological distance and tension affects cognition and decision making. Creating physical distance can lead to higher level abstract thinking, reducing the impact of immediate emotions on judgment. Spiked emotions lead to greater volatility and unreliability. Through the silence and the lean, William is able to make the judgment of Chad's surrender through assimilation into the group. So William backs off.
It could also be like a chess thing where, all right, I'm going to go back into my screaming thing. How do you handle that? Where do we go from here? And trying to feel out what the situation here is. If like this is what he does on the panel, and goes after guests, he could be like playing with the food so much where it's just, all right, what are we doing here? How much work do I need to do? And how do you feel about what just happened? Could just be like trying to get a lay of the land.
For now, changing the subject. Like the video and subscribe for more stories in communication psychology. However,
Is this legitimately a communication psychology video channel?
Contrary to William's belief, Chad is
Do we not factor in satire like at all?
not backing down. No, he's merely regrouping. And once William realizes this, his fury will be exponentially greater than it would have been before being misled.
It's worms, Tony, and the vet is telling me that it's the first time in my life I've been gaslit, Tony. Isn't that what gaslighting is? When you know something's true, but people are telling you it's not true? It's been the worst week of my life.
Like he's chewing just sentences that aren't like jokes. It's been the worst fucking, and then he stops. It's stuttery as someone who's speaks with a stammer. It's sloppily delivered, especially considering they're not really laugh lines. So I would certainly, if I were in Chad's shoes, I'd just be in awe of things and absolutely puzzled.
But we start to see something very strange begin to happen. As William speaks, Chad begins to offer more and more eye contact. William can feel the heat and the pressure from Chad's gaze, and it surprises him as he turns, notices him, and then locks on again to him. William backed off before, but the strength in Chad's stare makes William realize that the war is still here. And it is at this moment that William locks onto Chad's eyes, as if in preparation to send a psychological predator missile his way. Now that Chad is showing passive strength on behalf of the group, William feels justified in calling off his mercy. As Tony begins to launch attacks on behalf of the group, Chad's eye contact takes on a much more sinister underlying intention.
And week of my life. That was kind of a dumb idea. Normally you are good at that. That was kind of a stupid deal
that was
on that
a good one. Why are you turning
was?
on everybody? Yeah.
Because I'm not happy right now.
Because of the worm in the poo?
Shoes. I haven't worn these shoes a lot.
Oh, those shoes are f***ing terrible. Why
I
are
thought
you
for a
wearing
second
them?
you were about to say you liked them or something.
No.
Oh, gosh.
Oh, God.
This sounds very whiny. Yeah, I don't know what's being fast forwarded through, but I don't know if this was my first experience and I was sitting on that stage with him, I wouldn't know how to handle things or what to think even, because you're complaining about everything, and as far as I can tell, isn't really getting laughs. So you try to find an opening to say something funny somewhere and capitalize on what the mood of the room is.
Don't like them?
Why would you wear Why would you wear shoes that give you blisters? William, you're rich now.
Canadian tax up there, so no, I mean, it's
know.
not good. I ended up
know.
losing money this past
Well,
weekend.
you didn't lose money exactly, but it's Canada sucks.
Through this segment, Chad is holding his eye contact more and more and more. Chad's maintaining of his gaze as Tony berates William cues us into the reality of the strength that Chad feels when a part of this group, remembering that when he was on his own, he intentionally averted his gaze as Tony spoke. William first turns on the band, but gets shut down by Tony, and that is non-verbally co-signed by Chad. As the attention comes off of him for a moment halfway through, Chad puts down his physical barrier and now just self-soothes, perhaps in a hopeful attempt to not inspire any more attacks from William.
He could also be getting more information and preparing to say something himself.
However, as Tony talks to William, Chad still doesn't relieve his eye contact, and it is
Yeah, so he looked down at his shoes because there was a reference to the shoes. He could be, loading information and getting ready to say something.
through this that we come to realize that Chad is using the strength of the group to non-verbally communicate his perception of William to him. Chad, feeling safer and safer behind the shield of the group, now casts his gaze of negative judgment on William. Every attack from Tony is ascribed to the group, and now that Chad is part of the group, William now becomes the underdog, further justified in his offensive. It is perilous to trust that which we have acquired very quickly. You see, Chad found new safety against William, but as William begins his conquest, Chad better be
Just want to reiterate that this is a comedy show.
careful not to rely too much on this newfound strength.
Gambling.
Oh man, I've been playing blackjack. They've been calling me blackjack at the blackjack table. And
Oh, is that a joke?
doing so good in Vancouver, and then I just started losing every. Have you ever played blackjack
Oh,
before?
you're talking to Chad, making amends. Here we go.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny. Yeah, it could. A little snarky, but this is after he was asked if he's a comedian or something. Don't give him.
William's asking a neutral question, testing the waters and also checking Chad's allegiance to the group. Chad's response is slow, short, and not expressive of common ground. The lack of engagement from Chad implies that he's resting on the laurels of the group. From William's perspective, this cements Chad's negative judgment of him, and it also
It could just be, yeah, I'm not giving you information because the last time I was polite with you, you decided to ask me if I was a comedian or something when you know damn well I'm a comedian as I'm here.
cements
And
William.
it's also considering what's happened up until this moment. He delivered a line, yes, and that's it. There's humor in that. He's not chewing the line. He's not saying too much and stepping on it. Just yeah, move on.
William's future justification for attacking Chad here on out. There is no attempt made here from Chad to hide or veil the passive aggression, and so the sends the implicit message to William of, you can't touch me.
Again, the timing, the amount of time, it's important.
Individuals who hold power but feel personally inadequate are more likely to exhibit aggression when given power. There is a positive correlation between someone's power and how little concern they have with managing others' impressions of them.
Right. And there's also the thing like you're asking me if I'm a comedian and you are just swimming in it right now. You are swimming in olive oil. You're trying to ask me what I do. You're asking me about my experience with a Vancouver or blackjack. Go ahead, big boy. I'm not a comedian. You're the one who seems to have all of the power and control. Yes. Make funny with that. Yes. Next.
Chad feels comfortable sending this message because he is invincible here. He has the panel behind him. He feels that he is legion and that his newfound strength cannot be affected by this underdog. As things take a turn for the worst, pay close attention to how William reacts.
Yeah.
There's laughter too.
Got a tough guy. You're kind of tough on that one. That's kind of like a tough guy response.
Here we see, once more, the lean from William, letting us know that the tension between them has completely revived, and the emotions stemming from Chad's attack are clouding his judgment to the point where he has to lean away to see clearly.
And what is he holding in his pocket?
We must remember that it is at these points of judgment and emotional cloudiness that we are most volatile. We are at a fateful crossroads, where before William showed mercy after his lean, now he is beginning to feel more and more justified as he gets closer and closer to setting out for vengeance. But simultaneously, Chad begins to twist the knife.
You're kind of tough on that one. That's kind of like a tough guy response.
You asked me a question and I answered your question. Tell your story, dude.
What's your...
Yeah, I think he's let a little bit out there that he's still not okay with the what are you, some kind of comedian or something, and it could go further. You haven't done well in this performance, so my experience with you is you can't get sentences out, and you're swimming. So I have nothing to show you. You don't think I have anything, so go ahead. You show me what comedy is.
Baking soda. No.
We see the moment of great confrontation from Chad's side, a fearlessness in elevating the conflict, a symptom of perceived invincibility. Chad tries to deny the audience's reaction to his confrontation.
Also factor in, there's a band there. There's Tony being a hype man. That stuff, it plays into things, and it's hard to not feed into that adrenaline. I don't know what he's saying here, but no, he might be trying to tamp down the excitement.
As if this is only between him and William. However, the audience's reaction was only normal. Chad brought this on himself when he shrunk back into the group in order to protect himself. This is no longer a one-on-one war, and now you cannot sit here and deny its consequences. He fails to acknowledge, whether intentionally or unintentionally, the benefit that he has gained from shrinking back into the group and the corresponding negative effects that his persistent eye gaze would have. It is through this lack of acknowledgement that Chad feigns like he has been an individual representative this whole time. You see, he wants the confrontation, but he doesn't want to be blamed for it. And it is within this realization that we are cued into exactly why Chad shrunk back into the group in the first place.
It could just be simply that William has been tripping up on his delivery. I don't know what clips have been fast forwarded through, but the clips that have been featured in this video here, he's had a hard time delivering sentences. He's gotten audibly frustrated with himself. The reason for him saying "tell your fucking story" is, dude, get back on the right track. I'm not trying to do this with you. Just get your laughs. It could be as simple as that. It may not be, of course, but I don't like this body language shit is precious.
And why he now indulges in war once he reached a position of strength through the group. William, alone in this moment, stirs anxiously, looking desperately for a way in, as he realizes the colossus of Chad's strength that he has unfairly grown, knowing the whole audience is behind Chad in this moment.
The audience laughed at him saying, yeah, because it's uncomfortable. And that's funny because things aren't really working that well. You laugh at something that's like, oh, simple, to the point. Yes. Okay.
Baking soda. No.
Yeah, do you see what you just f***ing did? Did I?
Oh, brother.
Looking desperately for a way in.
Been listening to a minute or two. I'm lost. The narration has me feeling like Koba is scheming to oust Caesar. He said, go home and get your shine box with his tell your story comment. Yes. Yay. Yeah. And I think Chad is going to go on the offensive now because he's had enough of the pulling teeth from William, where he's kind of pushing and trying to pull.
As he realizes the colossus of Chad's strength that he has unfairly grown, knowing the whole audience is behind Chad in this moment.
Baking soda. No.
Yeah, do you see what you just f***ing did?
Did
you
I
see
see
what you just
did?
did? Yeah, do you see what you just f***ing did?
See what I just did? I know what I just did. I put a worm in your dog, bro.
Okay, that is funny. It's a laugh line, and I don't know how much of what I was thinking was accurate, but he found a moment. He referenced the dog's shit, which which William was talking about a couple of times. And he's playing into something, and he finally has his moment to get his laugh line, and he did it. He didn't stammer, he didn't chew his own line. Basically, if we're doing this ego puffing your chest thing, he essentially said, okay, well, if you're going to leave me to get the laughs, I'll do it. And that's essentially what this is. Like I wasn't really willing to do the game your way, but if you want me to, I will. And that's exactly what he's doing.
Chad realized.
And again, Tony and the band are just making this war thing seem a bit more overblown.
Realizes he has a foothold here as he doubles down. This decision to double down and trust in the future loyalty of the audience causes William to drop all facades. William's face has his smile get ripped off of it as Chad crosses the point of no return. William knows this is war, and all Chad does is revel in his unbeatable strength.
I put a worm in your dog shit, bro.
William remains silent, a patient shark who knows that the diver's cage can only last for so long. William's silence signifies the reality of the situation, and it serves as an implicit indication that an uncrossable, forbidden line has just been transgressed.
Again, basing all of this on the performance just here, I don't know if he's as strong and in a position to play with his food, be like a shark in the water who senses blood, because we witnessed him just chew lines, who's stepped on just like regular sentences. I don't think he's that dominant. I genuinely can't tell if he's genuinely processing things, if he's trying to figure out, all right, what is my move here? Or he's genuinely like, oh, fuck, I gave this guy an opening to make people laugh, and he did just that. Hard. Now what?
Silence can be a strategic response to social violations. The longer the silence, the greater the disapproval. The longer the silence, the more seriously it indicates the relationship's rupture. William
It's a relationship. It's been 3 minutes.
Implements this silence at too unlucky of a time for Chad. As the more William prolongs this silence, the more
Gray says William's a Kaufman-like character. It's hard to tell what's real at times, a true genius, what MSK could be. Whew. I can't wait for your presentation, Gray. Eventually this guy will run out of metaphors.
Chad begins to second-guess his own strength. And this is especially unlucky for Chad.
What's the mic down? All right, you gave me the opening to get a laugh. I did just that. And that's a different way of saying, move on.
As something simultaneously begins to change within the group.
And the other comedian leaving could be like, yeah, I'm not really interested in doing this. It's such long, I don't know if it's edited this way or what, but it's a lot of nothing happening in the speakers.
As the comedian next to Chad, Sam Morrill, gets up to go to the bathroom, all of a sudden Chad feels awfully alone.
Sure.
His hand goes up to his face in the creation of that physical barrier the second that Sam leaves.
Yeah, I mean, in a stand-up comedy show where, the gauge of quality is laughter, the only person to deliver a laugh line in the last 2 or 3 minutes is him. So why would he feel alone at this moment?
Chad is having the subconscious realization and doubt that he may no longer be connected to the group, and that the power of the group wasn't to the extent that he thought.
I don't think that the group needed his help. I don't think the group is a thing when he said, "Did you see what I just did?" That was him doing that. That wasn't the group doing that.
Realizing that there is no one next
And Sam, what did Sam do in any of this?
to him, connecting him to the group, Chad's panic is exacerbated when he looks back to William. And William is still dead silent.
He could be like, dude, I don't want to do this. Finish your shit. Get your laughs in. I'm not interested in this. I've proven to you that I can get laughs on your fucking openings. So please, by all means, get your work in.
The diver's cage has been opened. Now, as his eyes dart back and forth, clenching onto his face, Chad is alone.
Dude, if he were otherwise a knock-knock comedian in a roast battle, the same thing could be happening where, like, I'm not comfortable. This isn't the type of material I do. I genuinely don't know Chad. I'll be honest with you. But again, putting myself in that seat, if this played out the same way, I don't know. Again, there's no, like, stopping for a commercial break. There's no way to turn the lights off and step aside and be like, how much of this is kayfabe? What are we doing here? Let me know. So this look could be like, stop. Like, I'm not interested in this.
Staring down the barrel at the punishment for the actions he committed when he thought he was invincible. A debt for which he never thought he would have to repay.
And what were the lines before this? That, the how are you? Fine. Cool. Does that relate to money?
The time for repentance has passed, and in a complete turn of events, Chad, in his panic, realizes that he is at the complete mercy of William's wrath.
I'm just gonna let this storm settle, see what happens here.
There's
Man alive!
I kind of like this. I'm gonna let this.
mercy of William's wrath.
I'm just gonna let this storm settle, see what happens here. I kind of like this. I'm gonna let this go like.
I mean, it's like I'm joking around and then you start making fun about how I talk. I mean, that seemed kind of. I was blatantly joking around and then you come at my making fun of how I talk. At least I have a distinctive way of talking. You sound like some just idiot when you talk.
Oh my God!
Sound like some boring old white dude when you talk, dumbass.
Oh my God! Oh my!
I couldn't even do an impression of you, dumbass.
William! William! What did I?
Yeah. If he doesn't speak at that volume, if I'm gauging audience response without the band playing, Chad had the funnier laugh, and he didn't have to keep working at it.
Tell you about turning on guests like
No,
that.
seriously, how would I do an impression? Talk, say something else. You don't sound any kind of way.
Yeah, if you remove the band playing Tony screaming, the laughs aren't there. If you're playing Chad when he said, "Do I talk like this?" or when he was mimicking William's speech pattern, that was a laugh line. You didn't need, a drum tap. You didn't need Tony screaming. It was a genuine laugh line.
What is going on right now? This is absolutely incredible. This is
Yeah, it's like you make fun of how I fucking talk. You say something about my fucking dog. You've never met Gator.
I'm assuming Gator is the dog.
Oh my God, William, you are out of control right now. Look at how serious. Oh, he winked at him. There's the wink.
Yeah, whatever.
Was that sound effect played in the video or?
Before going on his attack, William subconsciously realizes that Chad's separation from the group means that William is no longer the underdog. And so to combat this, he takes the meta approach of breaking down the argument in an implicit case to secure the audience on his side before he goes in for the kill. William unloads onto Chad, making sure everyone in the vicinity knows that Chad crossed him. William revels in his laughter like a madman who is fighting for something that had a minuscule chance of success. Chad's physical boundaries coming back up the second he is alone cues us further into his realization that the strength of the group is gone. And now things get even worse.
I don't think that's what he's thinking. If you looked at his face prior to William unloading, he looked very uninterested in this exchange. He delivered his laugh line. He got his laughs in. And he's basically like, all right, you know what? If you need to scream and have a drum roll behind you to get your laughs in, cool.
As William unloads onto Chad, Chad remains steadfast in maintaining that physical boundary. At the end, William makes an appeal to absurdity by winking, likely because Chad didn't fight back.
That also could be the first instance, the first signal that this is kayfabe.
William takes this as a clear victory. It is not until Chad
victory. I love being in on a gag and not finding out it's a gag until 90% of it is over.
Keeps fighting that William gives the finishing blow.
Chad, did you wink back at William?
I've not winked back at you.
If you want to,
I've not winked back at William. Ah, no wonder you don't talk.
That was a laugh line, at least.
William mocks Chad once more, and Tony laughs, further alienating Chad and removing
Man, I wish I laughed at things the way Tony's laughing right there.
him from the strength of the group, losing Tony, the head of the group.
I've never laughed with my mouth that fully open. Like that's not even that bad. That. I don't think I've laughed with my mouth like a dentist's, please look at all of my molars. I've never laughed like that.
Means that Chad is losing all of his reinforcements. The strength of the collective is no longer. Chad has nothing to stand on, nothing to fight with. William knows this, and in remembering how Chad didn't have mercy on him before, William begins to twist the knife.
And if we're doing percentages of the times that Chad has done material and got laughs, the percentage is far higher than William. Again, it's that defense that I would say of picking your spots. Not just throwing out just chum constantly. Like, all right, this doesn't work. Let me get somewhere. But like choosing your spots.
Ah, no wonder you don't talk.
The pennies dropped.
Christmas crunch berries.
this is crazy. William, you're out of control tonight.
William deploys his laughter as an outward declaration of victory. Every time he laughs insanely, he stops immediately and looks over to Chad before breaking out in insane laughter again. Each one of these pauses is a twist.
Yeah, I don't know how you are about this, but usually if the comedian's laughing harder than the audience, I mean, it could be a way to stimulate the audience to laugh, but I have thoughts, concerns about when the comedian's laughing harder than the audience.
Of the knife from William. Each one of these pauses allows William to show every
and laughing like that and just being silent after, like that doesn't feel natural, the natural way to laugh.
Everyone in the vicinity that Chad can do nothing about what is happening. He has been surrounded and neutralized. The more William laughs, the more his victory gets cemented. And the more William laughs, the more Chad's loss gets solidified. Now, Chad, sitting there with nothing else to shrink into, there's only one thing he can do to stop the torture.
William, I can't have How am I supposed to book some of the best comedians in the world on this show when every time I have one on, you take shots like this and you...
He made fun of how I talked.
After you all right.
That's not how you were talking.
How was I talking?
You were taking it up. You were being dramatic.
How was
I
that it
matched you.
sound?
He's gonna make fun of you again if you keep
No,
asking
don't.
him that.
I'm not going to make fun of
Okay.
you. Come on.
Oh, there we go.
I think the wink helps this too.
Yeah, you just missed everything.
I
Wait,
missed
hold on.
so
Who are
much.
you? Are you a comedian?
That's a funny thing to do at that moment.
Wait, who's this guy?
Chad denies responsibility for the blame of starting it, which was foreseeable given the previous signals, but what he doesn't do is give any other information or attacks that would deny William the win here. This handshake from Chad serves as an attempted peace treaty, a desperate implicit plea to stop the violence. William shows his acceptance of the plea deal by turning a satirical rage towards Sam, the man who implicitly separated Chad from the group. In any war, the weaker party, recognizing its disadvantaged position, is more likely to make concessions or seek peace to prevent total defeat. It is in this request for peace from Chad where we are able to realize that he fully acknowledges internally that he has no other option.
Could it just be that he has no interest in carrying this shit on?
He knows it, William knows it, and everyone in the crowd knows it too. Be careful with your power, lest you be torn apart.
I'm playing real music.
Someone misused their power long ago, thinking they got away with it, and ends up being confronted in the...
All right, so this video is wild. This channel's wild. Like, I don't know how much of it was this released on April 1st, perhaps. I don't know how much of that was serious. Okay. Sorry. Just catching up. I'm still lost. CP's defending the one dude, Gray the other, and I'm just thinking, what the fuck is the EFAP ass breakdown? I'll give credit to the video, the presentation, the editing. Pretty glossy, pretty impressive. I appreciate the work. However much I would tend to be like, I don't think it's nearly as serious as you're making it, but good work all the same. I'm just listening / watching this in the background, playing my PS5. There's no need to shout. The lights and the band are part of the bit. Gator is the dog. Thank you, Gray. Sound effects are Red Band. He did the winking. I heard Ron White once say, if you're dying out there, slow down. If you're killing it, slow down. This guy clearly didn't catch that memo. I've heard that too. Yeah, take a breath. That's something that many of my issues, if I'm having a bad time, I speed up. And you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. Because time still goes for the same amount of time. 6 minutes is still 6 minutes. However well or poorly you're doing, speeding your sentences still, just because you're speaking faster doesn't mean that time moves faster. And that's something that I suffer from quite a bit when I'm having a bad go of it. I try to speed through things like, all right, fuck it, it's not working, get out of here. But you're really not supposed to. Again, Tony's the golden pony. Dramatic music sting like a midget in a urinal. Chad should have stayed on his toes. Not taking it seriously. It just felt a bit over dramatic in the narration. Yeah, I'm going to assume that was a bit winky. But yeah, so there it is. Some drama that I feel like there's an equal amount of entertainment in that presentation as some things that I've been suggested, some things that I've seen that I don't know how I feel about comedy YouTube and treating like the Kill Tony comedians as like the greatest and or worst things there are, and the only drama is of 6 to 10 specific comedians. Like, I I don't know. Um, I think there's a lot more to stand-up comedy than 6 to 10 comedians, of which 90% of them are being referenced and talked about on their podcasts and not their stage shows. But yeah, this is probably pre-recorded whenever you're watching this on the Technical Green Room show. I don't know if we'll be talking about this specifically before, after the presentation that Gray has in store for us. So keep in mind that tomorrow night on TGIT, or earlier or later tonight, depending on where this piece of video is, whenever you're watching it, Gray has a presentation where we're going to be experiencing William Montgomery's material separate from the interview portion. And again, to answer the question about what I would do in that situation, I would equally be uncomfortable. I'm not. First of all, socially, I have social anxiety. I need to know that we're on the same page if we're doing humor shit, and to not know while you're on stage is a bit unsettling to me. And I guess for William to have that power, it could be very Kaufman-esque. But if I were in the same shoes as Chad, I think I would give enough rope there. In a similar way, I don't know how I would be until the wink signal. It's one of those things where every comedian is different when it comes to getting their laughs in. So I don't know. I might have been totally turned off by this and just kind of shit. I might have been the one to go to the bathroom. That's not my cup of tea to have that exchange like that. But that's me. Anytime you see me on Kill Tony in the future, we'll probably be on the standing side, not the sitting side. I will love the Memphis Strangler. I can't wait. Stay tuned, everyone, because that will be a part of the official TGIT episode. A full episode on William Montgomery. Will we change our minds?
I know it's better